Albert Einstein was perhaps the most brilliant and influential scientist of the 20th century. Besides his wonderful scientific work, his life was fascinating and full of drama. We cannot truly understand his genius unless we dig in further into his human side and study the events that had an impact on him. Hi, welcome back to Between Wilds. In this new video, we're going to talk about 15 interesting facts about Albert Einstein. It was really difficult to pick only 15 because his life is really interesting and every major event in his life was basically a major event of his time. But let's get to it. 1. He never actually failed math. This is a very common misconception, and it's very popular to say that Einstein was really bad at math because that way you kind of humanize his genius, but it's not entirely true. He was actually really good at math and physics. When he was 15, he had mastered calculus. Overall, he was an average student, but in these subjects he was really good. Although it is true that he failed the entrance exam to the university, where his math and physics scores were very high, but in the other subjects he didn't have a good score, so it wasn't enough to get into the university. He had to wait longer to get in. 2. He did help with the creation of the nuclear weapon, but not as a lot of people think. Actually, he was not really involved in the Manhattan Project, in which the US created the bombs. But he did encourage the president to start building the bombs because he feared that Germany was able to create the bombs before. Later on, he said that if he had known at that time that the Germans were not going to be able to create the bombs, he wouldn't have encouraged the US president to do so. 3. He could have been the president of Israel. When Israel's first president died, Einstein was offered this position, but he declined because he said that he wouldn't be a good president for Israel. Einstein had a love and hate relationship with Judaism, because even though he was born in a middle-class Jew family, and he was not religious at all, he felt some sort of affection to Jews. And later on in his life, everything he did was in favor of the Jews, and he was in favor of the creation of a land for Jews in Palestine. 4. He was not really a good husband to his first wife, who was a Serbian called Mileva. At some point, he demanded her to agree to certain conditions if she wanted to stay with him longer. The conditions read as follow: you will make sure that my clothes and laundry are kept in good order, that I will receive my 3 meals regularly in my room, that my bedroom and study are kept neat, and especially that my desk is left for my use only, that you will renounce all personal relations with me insofar as they are not completely necessary for social reasons. 5. Promise the money of the Nobel Prize to Mileva if she agreed to divorce him. Even though he hadn't gotten the prize yet, he had the feeling that he was going to because of all his major contributions to physics. This was in 1919, and 2 years later, he did indeed get the Nobel Prize and he gave her the money. 6. He married his cousin after he divorced Mileva. And the relationship was kind of interesting because they didn't have a lot of intimacy, and Einstein didn't really want to live with her at the beginning. Eventually, this relationship was good for Einstein's scientific work because Elsa's role in his life was more of a partner who was always there making things easy for him. 7. Einstein had an illegitimate daughter. There's no true evidence of this besides the letters that Einstein and Mileva exchanged, because they wanted to keep it secret because they were not married and Einstein's family did not approve of Mileva. Supposedly, it was a girl who might have died of some sort of disease. She was born in 1902. Einstein later on had 2 sons with Mileva, one of whom suffered from schizophrenia, and he had to go to an asylum for that. 8. Einstein left Germany because of Hitler. That was in 1933, and only 1 month after Hitler became the Chancellor of Germany, Einstein had to leave for good. He was never able to return, and he spent the rest of his life in the US. But he had to go through a lot of things before Hitler. Anti-Semitism was huge in Germany, and sometimes it was a huge obstacle for his scientific work. For example, one famous physicist, Philipp Lenard, who got a Nobel Prize, was always against Einstein, and even used his influence to affect Einstein's possibilities to get the Nobel Prize himself. 9. Einstein developed some of his most important theories while he was working in a patent office. He was actually 25 years old when he published those famous papers in the miracle year. Actually, those papers are really important because they have to do with the equivalence of energy and matter, Brownian motion, photoelectric effect, special relativity. So this guy was a genius by the age of 25. Interestingly enough, he didn't win the Nobel Prize because of general relativity, which was his most important theory, but it was because of the photoelectric effect. 10. He actually struggled to get a job in academia. For almost 10 years he was trying. But his rebel attitude and his tendency to go against the rules didn't help him with that. Sometimes some institutions would require certain things that he wouldn't do just because he didn't want to. He always thought that his research was good enough for him to get into anywhere he wanted to, but that's not entirely true. So he actually struggled for 10 years to get an academic job, so he spent a lot of time in the patent office. 11. He was under FBI surveillance for a long time, and this was because he was a left-wing pacifist. So this was a bit suspicious for the US, and they thought that he might have been a Russian spy or something like that. This happened for more than 20 years. 12. He can be considered the father of modern cosmology, and this is because general relativity naturally involves the expansion of the universe. 13. He was close friends with a lot of important scientists of the time, including Lorentz, Grossman, Planck. And he was very good friends with Marie Curie, who got 2 Nobel Prizes, one in chemistry and one in physics. Sometimes they would even go on skiing trips. Sometimes they would even exchange letters to advise each other in certain matters, such as the public attention and the scientific work. 14. Einstein could have lived a bit longer, but he didn't want to go into surgery after he was advised to do so. This was in 1955 when a blood vessel burst near his heart. He refused by saying, "I want to go when I want to go. It is tasteless to prolong life artificially. I have done my share. It is time to go. I will do it elegantly." 15. He liked the term invariance more than relative. And there was a huge misconception around the world about his concept of relativity. The term relativity became associated with some sort of new relativism in morality, truth, art, and politics. But Einstein didn't like this. He was actually a man of simple and absolute moral convictions, which he displayed in many of the things he did. Okay guys, these were 15 interesting facts about Einstein. If you liked the video, subscribe, and we'll have videos every 2 or 3 weeks.